Peace to the saints. It's the big homie, the one and only, your favorite YouTuber's favorite YouTuber. I want to speak today about success, the motivation that carries you to success, the mindset, and the discipline. Anytime you take out your time to watch someone before a screen, I would hope that you walk away with something you can use today. On success, we have to understand that the outcome of success, the outcome of goals is supposed to be happiness. You should be happy at the end of it, but here's the part that most of you don't know about. You're also supposed to be happy on your way to success. It turns out that though happiness is the outcome, happiness is also a critical aspect and fuel to getting to the outcome. And that process of goal achievement is a lifelong process. For if you ever were to say, I've arrived, then life becomes boring and meaningless. You have to then set a new goal and get back on the horse. There's a corporation, Philip Morris, which is able to sell you cigarettes, even though we are all aware that cigarettes cause cancer, cause you to smell bad. They carry a social stigma, and they lead to premature death, and people still buy them. So why shouldn't you be able to produce a product that sells? I heard a very poor financial planner, I mean financially poor, he's a financial planner, but he's in poverty. And he said, it's not cool that you recommend product-based business to everyone because everyone can't become an entrepreneur. I said, yeah, that's true. Everyone cannot, but the people who choose to can. He said, well, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. I said, well, if that's true, then just create 10 businesses and you're assured of success. That is actually the nature of life in all things, not only business. If someone can sell to you cigarettes that you knew in advance would hurt you and you still buy it, surely you can come up with a product that will sell and provide a financial base for yourself. When you're thinking about your life, there's a couple cheat codes that will bring you to success. Number one is urgency. How ambitious are you about getting to this goal you have? The second one is discipline. Discipline outlasts motivation and inspiration. Sometimes you don't feel quite pepped up, but discipline are the things that you do on a regular basis. Discipline is why I was out here going for a run after I got off a 13-hour flight. You dig? Discipline. In my mind, it said, let's go ahead and get this work. That's what we do every day around this time. Discipline. I didn't need to be inspired or motivated. It's a habit. Discipline should always be there. Urgency is what gets you started. Urgency is when people look at you and say, man, he's on something different. Urgency is when people look at you and say, I want to be like him. What's he on? Urgency is what wakes you up early. Urgency is what keeps you up late at night. Urgency is what gets you there faster than everybody else. Urgency is what lets people know that you're serious. Urgency is what separates you from the average person. Urgency, I'm really trying to get to it. And urgency allows you to be a millionaire at 30 instead of 50. You did. You look young and wealthy. That's a major difference. I also like to use competition to drive up intensity. Anytime you can do that, you're going to go harder. Competition can sometimes give you inspiration. And it's a critical thing because inspiration makes you move faster. And when you move faster, you achieve the goal sooner. But here's the key to life that people forget about. This is why you're sitting at home unhappy, because you feel stagnant. You don't feel like life is going anywhere. One, because you failed to set a goal. Number two, because you're not making progress. And I can promise you, anytime you move faster than you expected, you achieve faster than you expected, that'll put a smile on your face. I said to myself, you know what? I'd like to start a tech company. I have an idea for an app, a mobile app. People would tell me reasonable things of discouragement, such as, Marquett, you have a degree in political science, not computer science. What makes you think you, random black guy from LA, born of poverty, what makes you think that you can be the next Zuckerberg or you can create a technology that people around the world are going to use? Why you? You don't have the education, you don't have the money, you don't have the background, you don't have the connections. They were saying all reasonable things. But the only problem is that those things were reasonable for their reality, not mine, because I'd already made a decision. The problem is that you'll have many people who try to give you advice not knowing what is on your path. They can't see your vision, which means you must think with your own brain. You must also be realistic, though, right? There's a lot of people who want to be a millionaire, multi-millionaire in their 20s. That happens rarely. But your 30s, you're still young. Important thing to remember. So know what you know. One thing I was certain of is that I could create a mobile application and I could be successful in the technology sphere. I knew what I knew, meaning I had 100% certainty and nothing the outside world could say would stray me away from that. I stuck to my script. You can't expect others to see your vision. That requires faith, something that is in great lack today. And I don't care where you go, you will find a lack of faith all over the world. Even when you find high concentrations of churches, even when you find churches are full, mosques are full, temple is full, you still find a lack of faith. It turns out that, most people go to the church not for God, but for the community. They want to be a part of something, huh? Yes. But in reality, see, you have to be able to see what's really there. That's the difference between great people and average people. We see what's really there, the reality of things, and we deal with the reality while staying optimistic. But I had great faith that I knew what I knew. I had the discipline to stick to my script. I blocked out the voices of others, and I was able to achieve. Let me tell you something that is counterintuitive that I want you to remember on your path to success. It is counterintuitive. A, you must be able to stick to the script, persist, stay doggedly focused on what you've decided to do. B, you must know when to quit. Whoa, you're telling me to persist and also know when to quit? Yeah, that's a challenge that I've had over my successful life. You see, I wasn't built to quit. So sometimes I'd get involved in something and just keep on going, even though that road was no longer the right road for me. Turns out sometimes things change. Sometimes you're running a business and it's not profitable, but you keep on going and there's no profit in the future. Sometimes you're with a woman who the love just ain't there. The thrill is gone. Sometimes you got to know when to quit. I say this not to the average person out there because the average person quits too much. I say this to the people who are very ambitious and sometimes don't know when to quit. You must, number one, know how to follow it till the wheels fall off. Persist until you win. And at the same time, know when to quit. And that has to be a decision made by you, not by those outside of you. Know when to quit a relationship, know when to quit a bad habit, know when to quit a hopeless business. I want you guys to embrace appropriate change quickly. You may have heard of a brand called Ralph Lauren or Ralph Lauren, however you like to say that. It has become iconic around the world, a representation of the American upper class, the WASP, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Ironically, this strong brand called Ralph Lauren was started by a little-known Jewish designer named Ralph Lipschitz. And he made the appropriate adaptation, which is to say that he knew his last name was vulgar and Jewish, and it would not be something that would represent the American ideal. He made the appropriate adaptation for success. Sometimes we don't want to improve or change or adjust, when in reality, success requires that very thing. For if you could continue doing the same things you're already doing, you'd have success today. If you want something new tomorrow that you don't have today, tomorrow, you must be someone greater than you were today. Embrace appropriate change. And understand that on your path to success, you will not always win in general, and you will not always win the first time. And what I mean by that is sometimes we get under the delusion that the first time we try a business, that first product's going to be successful. Or the first time you talk to that woman, she's going to give you her number and follow up with you and go out on that first date, and things are going to go swimmingly. No, sometimes you apply to medical school and you don't get in the first time or the second time. You get in the third time. So remember to keep applying. Sometimes you see that gorgeous woman that you work with and you're not able to crack her straight away. You wear her out over time and eventually she becomes dedicated to you. But the key to life is that persistence and that faith and being able to go through that process, which is challenging, with a smile on your face. Being able to enjoy the struggle. It is a rare breed when you're in the midst of that boxing match and your nose is bleeding and your eye is swelling and you have the audacity to smile during the boxing match. That's what I'm encouraging you to do. Huh? Understand that the master key to success is self-belief, belief in you. You. And that is why anytime I hear someone poking out their chest and shouting loud and being proud of who they are, I too am proud of them, because that is the fundamental thing it takes to be successful, to believe that you deserve something above and beyond what everyone else has. If you didn't believe you were any better than anyone else, then you would have that which is average, which is to say you would have very little. You'd be scratching out an existence at a job that you don't like. You must believe you are better than average to have things that are above average. And I want you to know that that is okay. And it is even more so okay when you actually demonstrate on a regular basis the thinking and the habits and behaviors that indicate you are above average. That is how you earn the things that are above average. But I want you to know that self-belief is the master key. If you don't believe in you, no one else will believe. And I'll tell you a funny story. As a man who came from obscurity and made a bit of a name for himself, before I was winning, no one else believed I would win. When I started winning, then every idea I had, they're like, oh, that'll work. Of course you can do that. You know, right now I can tell people I'm going to make a time machine. They say, that sounds good. Can I invest? You see, once you're a winner, and everyone believes, things are different. But before that, only you know what's inside. It's upon you to bring that to the surface. Once it's brought to the surface, then everyone's like, oh yeah, I always knew you were a hustler. I always knew you were going to be successful. Oh, did you? Did you? Because I don't remember that. I don't remember you knocking on my door to offer me money when I was in the early stages. I want you to know that most people get confused into thinking they've not been wildly successful because they lack the big idea, that their ideas are not of good enough quality or their ideas are not numerous enough. This is surely not the case. One thing that I am certain of is that ideas are largely worthless, and we engage in excessive ideation, ideating, creating ideas, having thoughts, and we are insufficient in our action, which is to bring the product to market, to create the product, to make the phone call, to make the connection, to get the work done, in other words. We are insufficient on that side of things. And sometimes you go brain dead watching life, forgetting to live life. What I mean is that you should be asking yourself, am I watching life right now? Or am I living life? And every time you should be trying to live life. You see, I was out tonight trying to get my run in this foreign country. And I kind of stumbled upon the nightlife area. And I saw a bunch of people in soccer jerseys. And I bet they'd never questioned why they're the fan wearing the jersey rather than the player wearing the jersey. That's a question that's perpetually on my mind. Am I watching life or living life? Am I in the stands watching the game, or am I in the game? It should be an ever-present question, driving your decisions. I want you all to know that reading and writing is a spiritual practice. It is the foundation of a disciplined life of an achiever. In fact, shame on me, I should link the journal here that I have so you can write every day. And every day that you take out the time to write, you should write on the following categories, which is health, wealth, relationships. Health, how did I feel today? How did my body react? How did I react to exercise? Did I feel any different in my body? Wealth, what is my financial goal over the next 15 days? What am I going to do today just to get a little inch closer to it? Relationships. Who do I need to meet? Whether it's a female that I'm interested in, or a number of females so that I can find one that's worthy, or it's a politically important person, or it's someone who can help me get an advantage in one of the areas of life that are important to me. Who did I meet? Who do I need to meet? Where do I need to be? And then it's a reflection of the day. Another thing you must remember is that life will always have duality. It'll have the saint and the sinner. It'll have the good, the bad. It'll have the advantaged and the disadvantaged. And what you must ask yourself is, in this dynamic, how can I identify with and inhabit the position of the strong side? Something must master and something must slave. It is the slave who says slavery is bad. It is bad if you're the slave, but if you're the master, it's just profitable. You heard me? You could complain that slavery is a bad institution, or you could figure out how to become the master. Because one thing I'll promise you, slavery is not going anywhere. The question is, will you be the master in the dynamic, whatever it is? It's a metaphor, understand. And in being able to acknowledge the realities of our world, good and bad, slave and master, you are looking at the truth, seeing what is really there. And the key to success is being able to assess the world, look at what's around you. And then, if you're really wise, you'll be able to do this. You'll say, okay, I see what's here today. What will be here in this world tomorrow? Meaning, what's important in the future of this world? And as a business person, you understand what's important for the future, and you try to make sure you're one step ahead, offering the products of the future, offering the services of the future, making sure that you're one step ahead. And understand this, if you're too many steps ahead, then the masses don't understand you. If you're too many steps ahead, then it's harder to sell your product. For example, when I invented a technology, I was too many steps ahead with my technology. People were saying, oh, this technology is invasive of privacy. Turns out several years later, the technology went really well. I just had to wait for the market to catch up. Discipline isn't always something that is urgent, but discipline is always there, ever present. Urgency is a beautiful thing when you can grab onto it, and you have to do different things to stimulate that within you. You have to be around the right people. You sometimes have to change environments. You sometimes have to let people know what you're doing so that they're watching you. And if your ego is like mine, if people are watching, you're about to do it like you're doing it for TV. You dig? You're going to do it at a high level, which is to say, I always run faster and longer when I'm running with someone. So you have to do the things that are going to make you perform. Solon writes, question, sir. What do you do / advise others on getting back on track when falling short on being consistent in business, fitness, relationships? Well, number one is to get started. And number two is to not talk about your shortcomings and follies. It's to take the action. And when you become a focused person and a good listener, you'll start to notice that people talk too much. It's going to annoy you, because once you get really focused, you don't have any extra words. You don't have extra words. And everyone else does. They have so many things to say, very little things that they do. But the first thing you'll notice is people talk too much. The second thing you'll notice is that they're talking about things repetitively, which is annoying. But when you listen to what they repeat, it'll let you know the measure of that person. Some people keep talking about the past. That's where they live. Other people keep talking about their trauma or the mistakes that they made. That's where they're going to stay. Other people are talking about what they're going to do. They're talking about their plans that they're about to execute in the near term. Those are the kind of people you want to be around. Those are the kind of people you want to be. Be mindful of the words that people speak. And another critical piece of success advice I really want you to pay attention to is be hard-hearted. Make sure that your heart, which is in the mind, is strong and tough, and it obeys that 3-sentence Bible, which is be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. I had a situation recently that was very disappointing, and it was because I was not of strong heart. I had the conference during which I was very busy, and a young man that I grew up with, formerly a really good friend, he hit me up, said, hey, I'm in Vegas, let's link up. Now, I was initially a little bit anxious about it, but I was like, for sure, this is my man, so let's link up. And he said, hey, where are you at this time? I said, I'm going to be here, even though this has nothing to do with the conference, which is my priority. A lot of people invested money in me for the conference. I invested a tremendous amount of money, did a tremendous amount of coordinating, and I'm making some time for my childhood friend from my neighborhood to link up with me. And long story short, he was irresponsible with the time. It was like, it hit me up like hours late and stuff like that. And it was just a waste of my time, because in advance, I expected him to behave irresponsibly. And I was trying to show love because it's a kid I grew up with. You heard me? We came from Section 8 housing. We came from, the gutter together. And the truth was, I could already estimate in my brain what was going to happen, but I allowed the weakness of the heart to override the brain. Another situation, I wanted to put some money in one of the saints' pockets. And if you know me, like in real life, I put a lot of money in a lot of different saints' pockets. And I wanted to, pay a guy to do the videography for the conference. Now, for me, the conference is an epic experience. And I look at everything as though it's the last time. I put everything, put my all into it. And guys are flying in from Toronto. Guys are flying in from New Zealand. Guys are coming in from Mexico, all over the world. And I hire this videographer was a saint, and he didn't show up. And it was so hurtful because the guys who were there, they have fewer memories that they can reflect on. They don't have as much video footage. They don't have the photographs. And it hurts me because that was a big experience. It's not every day you get to bell through the city, you heard me, with 50 of your people. And that's because I allowed the heart to override the mind. You see, you have to be cautious of the people around you. They may speak well. They may speak nicely. They may have smiles. But make sure that they're proven, and don't overinvest your trust. For your trust is a capital, just like your dollar is a capital. Those two persons disappointed me greatly, but even more than that, I disappointed myself because I went weak when really I should have been strong. And the truth is, you're going to go through this life and there are going to be people who don't like you. People have something bad to say about you, and there's no way to convince them otherwise. But don't disappoint yourself. Don't do what I did, which is where I got to look in the mirror and say, Marquett, yeah, he didn't show up, but you messed that up because you knew better. That's what really hurts me. And I say all that to say that, you often know what the right thing to do is. Don't engage in overthinking. Don't engage in excessive talking. Engage in the actions. Carlos writes, hey, Marquette, you've probably answered this question many times. That's all right. But how can I have more urgency on my goals? I tend to think I got plenty of time. Whoa, you tripping, bruh. You'll have more urgency when you hang around people who inspire you. For example, one thing I like about being me, and mind you, it's okay to say that. It's a good thing to be proud of yourself. One thing I like about being me is every time I show up to the halls of power, I'm always the youngest guy there. I remember there was a Super Bowl party, a VIP Super Bowl party in Las Vegas. And I remember looking around this big room, all these VIPs. We got ice sculpture statues and all this fancy stuff. And I was the youngest guy, and it's consistently that way. There is something beautiful about being young and well off. Not to say that I wouldn't settle for being old and well off as opposed to not being well off. That's number one. But number two, if you find the right company, it'll drive your urgency. For example, Jabrizi is younger than I am, and at his age, I was not that well off. So if I would have met him and we were like both, say, 24, 25 at the same time, he'd be in advance of me financially. And that would make me want to get my hustle on. You heard me? That would make me want to move faster. So if you find the right company, that's going to drive your ambition. It doesn't feel good when your boy pulls up in a $180,000 car and you pull up in a $30,000 car. It don't feel right. That's going to make you hustle. And that's not jealousy. That's you wanting to perform at an appropriate level given the kind of birds you flock with. But at the end of the day, when you're thinking about plenty of time, that's crazy. Let me know what age you are, Carlos. Feel free to send that in the chat, because you are obviously not spending enough time around hustlers. Because people who think they have plenty of time, I can literally not even name all the countries I've been to. I'm traveling right now. But if I tried to sit here and name all the little countries I've been to and the cities within those countries, I would forget. There are people who have had conversations with me like, oh yeah, remember when you went to Curacao? I'm like, how'd you know I've been to Curacao? Most people don't even know where that is on a map. I say that to say this. There are people who have done so much more than you've done. You should feel behind right now. You're not comparing yourself to the right people, and you should never compare yourself for the sake of jealousy and envy. You should compare yourself for the sake of saying, am I really mashing the gas on my life? Am I delivering on my life? Am I delivering on what's within me? Probably not. I don't even compare myself to anybody I could walk by on the street. You heard me? I'm reading the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, comparing myself to Marcus Aurelius. I'm looking at Julius Caesar, asking myself, when am I going to conquer something? I'm looking at Napoleon Bonaparte, wondering what crown am I going to put on my head? Huh? So if you feel like you got plenty of time, something's really wrong. And we should remember those great times when in ancient Rome, in ancient Greece, everyone wanted to be a hero. The concept of the Greek hero is the man who sets himself above other men. That takes a lot of work. Come on, Carlos. Zay writes, what was 22-year-old Quet doing? My book is linked in the description. It's called The Black Box, and it'll tell you what I did in my years. And the only thing that I would tell the younger me is to, number one, have faith. Everything's going to work out. Don't stress. Don't feel like you're struggling. And number two, to enjoy the whole way through. Enjoy every moment of it. You won't always have your hair. You won't always have your good looks. You won't always have your strength. You won't always have certain friends. They'll be deceased. So every moment, enjoy it in the present and live it like it's the last one. Even nowadays when, mostly, sometimes my ladies will have a tantrum. And, when I'm leaving, because you heard me, I ain't sticking around for the BS. When I'm exiting, every now and then she don't want to give me a hug. And I say, in my head, but what if that was the last time you ever got to hug me? How would you hug me? And that's the mentality I try to live with. So even if I'm like mad at my woman or my mother or a friend, I still want to hug them like it's the last time I ever hugged them, because it could be. And that's one of the fortunate things about life as I've experienced it. I know that people do get taken out unexpectedly, whether it's by the penal system, they're incarcerated, or it's by fate taking them out of the living world or what have you. But it encourages me to try to do everything like it's the last time I'm doing it. And when you have that kind of an ethic, you also are conscious about like, A, is this worth my time? If I'm going to do this hard, is it even worth doing? And if it's not, skip. Jay Vice writes, what's the best tactic you use to stay consistent in regards to the preliminary stages of your product-based business? I find I tend to lose enthusiasm and drive. Jay, I've been thinking about making a video about that, because the regard for work is really declined globally. I think it's due to social media and everyone looking at, the shiny aspect of life. Men especially should be willing to do work. If you're a religious person, in fact, if you're a Christian, I believe the idea is that when the Adam and Eve character were cast out of the Garden of Good and Evil, or the Garden of Eden, wherever they were cast out of, my understanding is that they were cast into a life of toil, that man would spend the rest of his days toiling to scratch out a mere existence. Because the idea when they were in this garden of plenty before Eve got that apple is that you just walk up and pick the food off of the tree and eat. Food was abundant. She chose to choose the one tree that was prohibited. But if you're a Christian, you should understand work, and you should know that this is what was ordained for you. But beyond the religious stuff, yeah, if you don't want to work, you ain't going to eat. But here's the key. The man who can do work that is not exciting has a tremendous advantage over all other persons, because when I was building my technology company, there were many aspects of that are just truly boring, drudgery. And if you're able to endure that tedium, you will come out on top, because you're able to focus and endure. Much of life is not exciting. And you can only get to the parts of life where it's easy and fun and exciting and shiny after you've went through the mud. Most of us are not born Kardashians. So if you really want the millions, you're going to learn how to stay focused when it counts. But most people, they talk about getting to the bag, but they're never going to get there. And they're not even serious about getting there. When people say things like, I only do it if I'm passionate, I know that you're not a winner. I do what it takes. I don't do it because I'm passionate. I do what it takes. If it takes me to do something I'm not passionate about, that's what I'm going to do. I've been many things in this life. And I think that many of you who are hustlers will also be many things in this life. And you'll be exceptional at more than one thing, because you're able to apply the same work ethic consistently across endeavors, some of which you're passionate about, some of which you're not. Yeah, gentlemen, and I really want to encourage you. There was one time in my life I experienced a hater, and I didn't handle it in a player way. And ever since then, I said, I'm going to keep it player. And the reason for that is because it's a privilege to be hated on. No one ever walks down the street and sees a homeless person and starts hating on them. Never happens. But I assure you, when you ride down the boulevard in that thing with that chrome shine, you heard me, that paint fresh, yeah. You got that bad B next to you and you're looking like money, oh, they be hating on that. But they never walk by and hate on the homeless guy. And so to be hated on is merely an expression of that person's misexpressed love. And as a boss, the more successful you are, the more friends you'll have, the more frenemies, and the more outright enemies you'll have. Because you just have more of everything. More money, more cars, more property, more haters, more women. You just got more. It's called abundance. You have abundance on the positive side and abundance on the opposite side as well. And you have to learn to take everything in joy. Because after all, what sense would it make for a wealthy man to be angry in general? You're wealthy, you got a good life, right? And further, what sense does it make for a wealthy man to be angry at a poor man? Yo, they struggling. They got enough problems, you heard me? They don't need your ill will toward them, you heard me? Their life bad enough. You wealthy, man, enjoy that. Nothing worse than an unpleasant millionaire, right? In my opinion. I just like to laugh at these guys. Carlos writes, any advice on how to be hard on your brother that is not being consistent with his goals? He even told me to be hard on him. Thank you. Carlos, I have seen a lot of people and I've observed what they observe. I've seen people and I've observed what they observe and what they chose to take on. I've been around great men, and when I looked at them, I said, I like the way that guy stands tall. I like the way that guy is up-tempo. I like how that guy is encouraging. I will do that. I will take that and make that a part of me. It's a choice. I am of the mind that if someone wants it, they'll go get it. They'll find it. They'll seek it out. It is not a great use of your time to try to help he who doesn't want to help himself. I have friends and family who have known me over a lifetime. And we both started here, and I ended up here, and they ended up here. And it is only due to their decisions that they have stayed stagnant. And with all of my encouragement, with all of my example, they've moved nowhere. So I do know that whether someone is your blood or not, they might have the genetic material to be successful, the capacity, but it is the psychological set of a human being, whether they're mentally fixed or they have a growth mindset that will allow them to achieve. It's what they choose to do, and you will exhaust yourself trying to put your motor into someone else's car. It is impossible. All you can do is encourage and continue being a good example. I wouldn't suggest that as an occupation. And I think we both wish much success for your brother and for all persons. Stop playing. How can I develop my mental toughness while working? I notice I tend to get stuck and procrastinate when faced with highly technical problems. First, you should ask yourself, is this worth doing? If you can make the same amount of money doing something that's more enjoyable, surely switch it out. Same amount of money. If this is the most money you can make for the hour of time that you're spending, then this might be a worthy pursuit until you can get onto something better for you. So that's number one. Then number two, if you notice that you're zoning out, this is what I start doing. Like when I start zoning out, I keep a piece of paper and a pen with me, and I'll write down, I'll break the task down even smaller, and I'll write down the exact thing I have to do. When my mind starts zoning out, I'll look on the paper to see what I'm supposed to be doing. Because the mind that is being unruly, it's forgetful, it's distracted, and so I just keep that piece of paper and I write whatever that one little small next step is, and I keep looking back at that oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's how I get to it. But if you find that your life and too many of your hours are focused on things that don't add up to anything important to you, then you might want to find a new path for yourself. Know that there are great things out in the world for you, and you should be urgent about getting to them. Yeah, I've heard fools say that, oh, you can't be an actor, that's unrealistic. Well, are there not actors? You can't be an astronaut. Are there not astronauts? Someone has to do it. Just like someone has to go shovel manure off of the horse racing track, someone also has to jump around on the moon. You dig? So why not you? I'm curious to see what I end up having for this meal. I rarely travel solo. Actually, I usually have at least one assistant or so with me when I travel, and for that reason, I don't ever look at the restaurant offering or go get the food. So this is a new experience which I'm looking forward to. And you have to have change and excitement and variety in life. They say variety is the spice of life, and I think that's very true. And progress. You will not be happy unless you feel like you're making progress, and you can't make progress unless you define what the goal is. Yeah, I know some of you have had times where you wake up, when you're about to go to sleep, and you say, "Dang, what was this day about? What did I do today?" It just feels like it just went by really quickly, but you can't identify what you did or what you got out of it. That's a problem. You can't let a day go by. They're very valuable. Saints, it has been truly a pleasure to have this time to fellowship with you. Let us end with our tradition. The Creed of Assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The Creed of Assassin. I am going to be who I truly am because I am remarkable, and I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time, peace to the saints.